Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is my new project. It is a really piece of crap 2006 Range Rover supercharged 4.2 liter all-wheel drive. It is ugly as could be. I believe it was a flood car. Don't know any background about it. It was up for sale, asking $4,000. I ended up paying $2,800 for it, or $2,700 for it. I paid $300 to have the title and put in my name, so I'm still waiting on that to come in. And there's very little I know about it other than that nobody wants to buy these things because of all the problems they have. Case in point, the suspension you can see is completely flattened out. There is a strong leak on the front passenger side, which I'll be fixing today. Other than that, it runs, drives. The Brembo brakes work amazing. I had it up to about 60 and felt like I was going to hit my steering wheel when I slammed on the brakes. So anyway, we're going to power wash it. It's got some plasti-dip all over this thing. So we're going to try to get that off of there, clean this thing up a little bit, see what it actually looks like, and dig into it and do some basic maintenance. So I'm going to do changing the oil, doing the transmission service and filter, obviously fixing the suspension, raising it up, inspecting the front and rear A-arms and bushings to make sure they're good. All in all, I'm actually quite surprised on how cheap parts can actually be for this thing, as everybody just brags and raves about how horrible it is. But ultimately, a lot of the stuff you're seeing in terms of costs is somebody that's actually going to pay for the service to be done. So me doing the service by myself, maybe it won't be so bad. Maybe it will. I don't know. We'll find out. So it's got DVD player, multi-disc DVD player, radio works, touchscreen works, starts right up, no problems. So let's dive into this thing and see what we can do. Now you guys can see the air strut in all its glory. This looks like it was manufactured on May 19th, 2010, made in the UK. So this has obviously been replaced, okay? And it's been leaking right about here. Just on the inside, you can see how dry rotted it is all through here. All you have to do is just kind of squeeze it and you can see it, how dry rot's been set in. And so when I held my hand back here, you could feel the air leaking out the back of it. So we'll be replacing that. So I purchased this guy online, and it looks a bit different, but screw it, we'll put it together. And it came with no instructions, by the way. That's just a package receipt. It's really nice. Wants to be difficult, so we're going to figure out how it's actually set up, because I'm not going to do this twice. So this is the R-knot instructions, but they don't go over small O-rings. So
start the engine, wait 2 minutes, operate the raising function of the car's electronics. Initially lower the lifting platform slowly and only completely when the vehicle rises of its own accord.
So this is about where it will sit. I noticed 2 other leaks on the suspension when I installed that other airbag, so screw it. We're just going to go ahead and go to coil springs. So I ordered an Atlantic British coil spring conversion kit. It adds 1 inch of lift. So this is approximately the height it will sit at. So this is right around 20 inches. Now, there's not a whole lot of people online that are really doing a whole lot with these things when it comes to lifts and actually putting the information on there to really help you out. Unlike you would a typical like F-150 or a Dodge or a Chevy, anything else, like they all put the stuff on there that they did so you can tell just what will work and what won't. With these, you never know, because people just aren't very descriptive of what they do. So this is going to be a 1 inch suspension lift. These tires are the Nitto Churro Grappler G2s. They're all terrain, you can see. and the size is a 275 5520. So when we line that up, here's what you're going to do, right? So you see how much lower that wheel is. See how much that is there. It's about 20 and a half. So that's about how it should sit. Right there, maybe half an inch lower. Which, in my opinion, looks good. So, I'm still not a fan of the wheels, but wheels cost too much money. This is a stupid lug pattern. They have 5 on 120. The only thing you're going to find 5 on 120 on is a bunch of car wheels. And you could get spacers and adapters, but the problem is that most wheels for other vehicles usually have pretty good back spacing, so you don't want your wheel coming out 6 inches outside your truck. I mean, maybe if you were lifting it a lot higher, but for this, you don't want that. So I bought some small spacers to go on there, and they're just going to stick out about another inch. But roughly, this is the look I'm going to go for. So this thing, the vehicle base price is $89,285. The cherry wood rear seat entertainment is $2,500. The Sirius satellite radio tuner is $400. Inland transport $665 for a total amount of $92,850. Wow. And now I just bought it for $2,700 bucks. That's why you don't buy new vehicles. So you can see the inner tie rod is pretty well worn out. See how much play that has? It's a ridiculous amount of play. That's pretty loose. Tire is completely bald. So I'll be taking these wheels off and putting these tires on today in anticipation to get that spring conversion kit probably next week, and then swap everything out. Alright, so I got the tires mounted up for the wheels. After installing the air spring on the passenger side, I found there was also a leak on the driver's side air spring, and there was also a leak somewhere midway through the vehicle air line, possibly the air tank on the passenger side. So rather than replace a whole bunch of stuff where it's just going to keep having problems, I haven't even really driven this thing very far. So being that it's been sitting for possibly a year or two, I really don't want to start driving this thing around after fixing it and then find out it's going to have a bunch more leaks. Just because I'm sure the rubber's dry rotted and swelling, so might as well replace it with something else. So I purchased a Atlantic British, it's a Range Rover L322 coil spring conversion kit. Now this isn't exactly a cheap kit. There are a lot cheaper kits out there. This one runs about $1,000. This one looks completely different than the one I took off the passenger side. Got like, look at that. Got like options for different studs and stuff on the top. It's one of those, it's a good brand, but obviously it still leaks. So. So immediately upon opening this box, I found a set of instructions that are in color, and there's a lot of them. But this is the first suspension kit I've ever bought that actually had colored instructions. Everything that I get is black and white, and that's from Fox Racing to Rough Country to Rancho. They all have just black and white instructions. I mean, what does it take to just get color, you know? It really couldn't cost that much. Let's see what we got in here. Wow. Alright, so if anybody want to know what's inside one of these air shocks, that was freaking ridiculous. They typically don't look like this. The other side didn't look like that. And you see this one's got O-rings built into the head, which typically the O-rings sit right here inside of this washer. So that's common, that's a normal piece. But yeah, this is completely unique. That company, which I can't remember the name of it, like a reputable company, they actually have pretty good reviews. Oh my lord, taking this thing off, what a nightmare. Clean this thing off a little bit. Okay. Alright, now I got one put together. Fairly simple, and actually seems a lot better than I had originally thought. Yeah, not bad. I'll see if I can pry this thing inside and make it work. So this is how I got the spring on the strut. This is a kit that you can get at O'Reilly's. You can rent it. I think it's like $100. It's the number 67051. It's worked good so far. I put 2 on now. Alright, for the rears it's pretty simple, but it's also a pain. So the bottom is just a 8mm bolt. The top is the clip to get the air spring out after you cut the line. but unfortunately putting this spring back in, unless you have that spring compressor that they pretty much advise you to have, it's like a clamshell one that just crushes it from the outside and then you can take it off and pull it out. I don't have that. I have this one from O'Reilly's, and not exactly the best, but what I did is I actually broke the lower control arm loose, got the sway bar link off, disconnected the shock, disconnected the hub assembly, and lowered it down with this big long bar going through all the way through the bottom, all the way through the back on that cross support. Lowered it down, got the spring in on the top, and got it on the bottom. There's a bolt holding in the bottom right there of that bottom mount. So now I'm going to start loosening the spring clamp, and it should be in place. Then I'll use the jack to get it all set up and tightened up. All right. Odin, you're blocking the view, buddy. Boy, back up. Sit, 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 sit. Just took the little clip out on the top of the air spring. The bottom of the air spring is 8mm bolt. Since I'm not going to reuse this ever again, nor do I plan on selling it used, because I just think that's terrible. I don't want the liability of having to put up an air spring and then somebody come back and say that it broke on them or caused an accident or whatever. So left them stranded. So let's go ahead and just start cutting into it. Keep in mind, this is not under pressure. Alright, and there you go. Alright, so again, I'm running into the same problem this side as I did the other side. It's not going to bend down far enough for what I can get out of the spring compressor in order to get it in place. So I'm going to have to disconnect this lower control arm again to bend it down as I need, in order to secure the spring inside this pocket right here. It does have a cap up here that's probably about 1 inch deep, where it's actually going to sit. At the bottom, it comes with a rubber base. I've also seen them come with aluminum bases that will sit right here. So I'll go ahead and get that started. There we go. Now, I did put this bolt through right here to hold it in place, but now that it's all set, I'll be tightening that up. I believe it takes 1 1/8. And I can start putting this back together. I bought these wheel spacers on eBay. They were $120 for all four. They're 1.5 inches thick. And I like them. They look like good quality. the thread pattern is the same, the bolt pattern is the same. So it's 14 by 1.5 for the thread. So 14 by 1.5 pitch. And they fit right over. This is another thing you got to look at, is the diameter of the center of the hub right here, so that when they do slide over, it actually seats all the way. As you can see. So I'm going to clean this up, put these on, put the wheel on, lower it down, and see what it looks like. Alright, gentlemen, this is the end result. See how far the tires stick out. They're almost flush the body line of the car. More aggressive tire, because that's what it should be on here. And all the lugs aren't on this one. I got to take this wheel back off, but you guys can get an idea. Hey buddy. Overall ride height. Yeah. Hey, psst, psst, come here. Let's see. Stepping into it, you're looking at about 24, so 2 foot. So 2 foot to get inside. Now let's see how accurate they were with their measurements here. It's actually an inch taller than what they said. So they said from the center of the hub to the top of the fender be 20 inches. This is at 21, just over 21. I imagine these springs will settle. This one's over at about 22 from the center. There's this kit right here. It's the not really roverexperts.com, but it was Atlantic British. There we go. That's the part number, or the kit number. There we go. And you guys can see. So it came out to like right at $1,000 and 80, or $1,080, I think is what I paid for it. Here are the wheel spacers. Those are the. It doesn't do a good job of focusing, but that's the part number right there. Alright, you guys that did the coil suspension conversion and maybe have a bunch of alarms going off on your dash and that keeps beeping when you drive, and it's so annoying. This is where your speaker is, right here. Right there. In your dash. On your instrument cluster. So I'll be disabling that. Now, I have tried using the reflash. It's supposed to get rid of it and program it, but it hasn't been working, and this thing is really annoying to drive when it beeps every 2 seconds. So it's a $2,000 car, guys, so I don't mind disabling the alarm or alert saying that there's something wrong with my car. I pay attention to my dash, my gauges pretty regularly when I drive. So if something does come across the screen, I'm going to see it. I don't need a beep to let me know there's something wrong. Alright, after being very careful, you can remove this back panel here. And there you have the speaker right there. That's what it looks like removed without damaging the circuit board. Just taking off this piece. Speaker. Let's see how it sounds now. Just like that, folks, there's not a single noise to be heard. All quiet. So the suspension fault will still pop up down there when it's running, but you leave the key in the ignition, have the door open. If you want to drive around with all those warnings on the dash, sure, do it all day and not listen to that beep. So today I'll be replacing the sway bar bushings. These ones were ordered from Atlantic British. This is the number 1CLP0OLY, 1CL poly. It's a 31 millimeter ARB bushing. So what it's doing is making a clunking noise, but the clunking isn't transferring into the steering wheel. So my guess would be either a control arm or a bushing, and these bushings look pretty wore out, so I'll start there because they're cheaper and easier to do. And if that doesn't fix it, then I'll move on to the control arms, which I thought seemed pretty tight when I did the suspension, but under a load as heavy as this vehicle is, sometimes you don't know. So I'll go ahead and get this knocked out. Alright, got them in. You guys can see, I don't think it's going to focus. But at the end of the carriage, this thing is pretty clean. Not in the most literal sense, it's pretty dirty, but I mean, it's no rust whatsoever. Like a typical Texas vehicle. Oh, there's the starter, by the way, if anybody was wondering where that was. Pretty easy access, considering. Alright, so here is the end result of the Rover for now. Really came out nice. It took about 2 gallons of remover to get all the plasti-dip off the truck. Including the wheels. So this wheel right here has something on it. I'm not really sure. It's not oxidized. But the rest of the wheels look really clean, like this one. You can even see the Brembo. If you could focus on that. You see the Brembo on the brakes. I'm pretty happy with it. That came out good. I'll talk about the suspension kit for a minute. The Atlantic British suspension kit. It's the conversion from air spring to coil. I gotta say, I'm very impressed with this kit. It rides very smooth. You know, the rebound, the spring rating, everything they did was impeccable. So the price for it being right at $1,000, not including the strut, it seems a bit steep, but I in no way regret that purchase. I think that was worth every penny, to be honest. I'll highly recommend that kit. So you can see here how it sits. I've got 1-inch wheel spacers, which you can see, 1.5-inch wheel spacers, which are just inside the wheel, and then the tire size, which you can see right there, if I can focus it. It's a 275 55 R20, so it comes out to be around like a 31.9-inch tire by 10.5 wide. I wouldn't mind having 33s on it, but it just gets really close in the front and they start rubbing. Here I think that's just a really good fit for the 1-inch lift. And you can see the way that they sit out. I mean, I think this truck is how it's supposed to look now. So I still have to replace this headlight right here, and I will be digging into the transmission a bit because it does have the unknown gear ratio fault code, and I'll do a video on that in the future whenever I replace the valve body in the transmission. But for now, I think I'm going to drive it just the way it is. Like I said, I'm very happy with it. So I still have to take off the rest of the Range Rover, which came off when we were washing it. So you look here, you can see the tires, how wide they are. But yeah, all in all, I'm pretty impressed. So if anybody has any questions about this truck, if you want me to do a video on any part of it, I'd be happy to do that. I think I really just need to drive it more to find out what are the problems it's going to have. I've only logged about 300 miles on this truck since I got it. Doing all these modifications and changes to it, I probably only put around 250 on the truck. So thanks again for watching. I appreciate you guys watching my channel and seeing me go through my projects. I will have a video soon on that Ford over there. Just waiting on the engine to get finished up, and we're going to put the 6.0 back in that. And the house is just on a break right now because of the cost of things, so hopefully soon I'll pick it back up. Probably not till October though. Whenever October rolls around, I'm going to have a good deal of money saved, and I'll be able to dig right into it. So until then, I'm just going to keep doing little projects like this truck, and hopefully you guys enjoy watching that. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.